Actually, our music's not going to play because my mic is plugged in right now. Um, so we're just going to start this right away as we go here. So let me just get to the right page here so I can start this. Ill repair for this first stream, guys. Thanks for joining in here. But we're about to start right now here. Let me just move this back a little bit. You know, I had to move the ending music right away. Thanks for joining whoever's in here so far. So just give us like 2 seconds. All right, so recording hits now. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast, our first episode in 2021. 2020 was a fun season, minus everything with COVID in between, but we're back. Took a nice month off. Had some things going on, but we're back talking fantasy, and we're talking Dynasty now. It's that time of year where you're trying to get your Dynasty leagues intact and ready to go, and over the next about 2 months or so, we're going to be doing a lot of Dynasty on per division. So today we're going to really get into the AFC East, talk about some of the players and what their values are moving forward, maybe talk about if you're trying to buy them or sell them and why. And this week, just me and Coach Jibbs here. So what's going on, Coach Jibbs? What's going on, buddy?
It's been a long time, Steve, man. Glad to be back. Honestly, Dynasty isn't my forte, but hey, I'm in it to win it. I know these are the crucial months in Dynasty where you buy low on some players, you probably sell high on some guys who overperformed last year. So we're here to give you some of these nice little nuggets of information so you guys can decide what you're going to do with some of these players that we're going to discuss. But as we start first, AFC East, it ain't the best division, but hey, we got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, we sure do. But before we get into that, guys, we're just going to go over the news real quick. And obviously, we didn't have a chance to really talk about this. We did have our boy Charlie write an article about it. You can check that out on our website. But Matthew Stafford is on the move, and he's going to LA while 2 first-round picks, a third, and Jared Goff are heading to the Lions here now. And Jibbs, I mean, first overall here, what does Stafford in LA do for you in terms of fantasy right now?
It does a lot for me because Jared Goff, I was just, kind of touting him last year as the guy that you could probably get in the later rounds of drafts and redraft, and he'll pretty much overperform his ADP, and he definitely didn't. The guy's mediocre. 20 touchdowns. I don't know what his stats last year for backed, but he's basically a pedestrian. It's barely over a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. We know Matt Stafford's a baller. This guy's thrown for over 5,000 yards, I think, a couple times, and he's just been getting dropped down in Detroit. These guys, that franchise is an abomination. They can't get out of their own way, and the Rams with those great skill weapons, the great defense. Matt Stafford's probably not going to have to do much, but just be a QB. And Sean McVay was literally babying Jared Goff just to get him to do stuff. And Matt Stafford is a veteran quarterback, and I think in that Ram system, he's going to fly. And I think it's going to be good things for Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Cam Akers, and just the whole offense in general. He probably could get Higbee back into being a consistent tight end. And I like the move, honestly.
Yeah, no, definitely like the move. The Rams are clearly trying to win a championship right now, guys. And, in terms of fantasy, it's definitely a good move, especially if you have the pass catchers and you have obviously a guy like Cam Akers. I mean, just having Matthew Stafford there, you're going to get a guy who I think can push the offense downfield. And getting a guy like Bob Woods right now and maybe Tyler Higbee or someone's I'm really trying to grab on my fantasy teams right now because, Jared Goff, while he was a mediocre quarterback, just couldn't get the ball downfield, and you saw that with his regression over the last 2 years. And a guy like Matthew Stafford has been really good at airing the ball deep, and I think that's what you're getting. Again, there's some concern with his recent back injuries he's kind of dealt with over the last 3 seasons, but I think you're looking at a guy who can make this Rams offense score more instead of just playing tough defense. They're going to be a team who can push the ball downfield and actually score fantasy points, which is kind of why I really like this trade. Again, it's slight risk with his age and his injury, but this team, the LA Rams right now, looking great. But on the flip side of the ball, the Lions obviously got a lot in return, 2 future first-round picks, a third-rounder, and Jared Goff. So in terms of Jared Goff now in Detroit, Jibbs, what does that do for this offense here now?
I'm crying, basically. Hopefully the Lions and their new coaching staff will be able to utilize Jared Goff. They do have stud pieces. It's not like Matt Stafford was going from a an empty cupboard into a full cupboard. Like, he had Hawkinson, he has Galladay, he had Marvin Jones. They're not like as premier like names as the Cooper Kupps and the Robert Woods of the world, but Jared Goff is not going to a bad situation at all. I know the offensive line will probably be a little bit subpar there, and they do have they have DeAndre Swift, so you could utilize him too. So I don't think Jared Goff's gonna just fall off the cliff in the fantasy kind of output, and it's gonna take some use to get into like in rhythm with the Lions' skill weapons, especially Kenny Galladay. I kind of like had him pegged as like a premier like dynasty asset last year, and I know with injuries and just contract situation and all that good stuff, it may be hard to think Jared Goff is gonna make him elevated. But we also saw Kenny Galladay just kind of take off with like bum quarterbacks, so like it should be good with him. Hawkinson, we saw Jared Goff utilize tight ends in the Rams, so like I don't think his fantasy value is gonna vanish either. So like even swap, but like you just gotta take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, no, definitely. For me, when it comes to Jared Goff, though, it definitely lowers his value overall. I mean, he was in an offense with a brilliant mind like Sean McVay, and you drop him for premier all-star, wide receivers, a strong run game, a solid tight end, to what? I would say pretty strong tight end, a great running back in DeAndre Swift, and basically no wide receivers at this point, minus if Kenny G comes back on a franchise tag or whatever. It definitely lowers his value for me overall right now in terms of just either redraft or dynasty right now because, he was maybe a top 15 quarterback. Now he's probably a bottom 10 quarterback in terms of fantasy right now. Again, the only thing that's kind of attractive about him right now, especially in a Superflex league, is that he's probably going to throw the ball a lot. I mean, the Lions are going to probably be behind a lot of games. Their defense wasn't that great last year. So it's going to force Jared Goff to throw. While he may not be a great thrower or a great quarterback in general, you're going to be looking at a guy who's probably going to throw the ball at least 35-plus times a game. So that kind of was, for me, in terms of fantasy, kind of attractive. Again, he's going to have a poor performance. He's going to throw a couple picks here and there, but overall, I mean, it's not great for Jared Goff. Unfortunately, hopefully he can find a way to turn it around. He's got a good coaching staff around him, especially a guy like Anthony Lynn, the OC now. But, yeah, it definitely hurts his overall value for me. I mean, for the Lions, again, you're getting 2 first-round picks. I mean, they really got to make the most out of this, They got to really work this team around and use those first-rounders to really do work. But Jared Goff definitely takes a hit in my books for me, so. Any other news we got going on? Obviously, there's rumors out there that Watson, Sam Darnold, Derek Carr, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan are all circling about maybe being traded or whatever. We're really not going to get too much into that, but once those trades hit, we're definitely going to start talking about that kind of in fantasy impact, but I wouldn't worry about it too much right now. Nick Boyle signed a 2-year, $13 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens, especially in those dynasty leagues. Someone like that who probably was cut or something. They used a lot of 2 tight ends when they had Hayden Hurst there. Nick Boyle, more of a blocking tight end, but not horrible. A lot of, obviously, coaching changes that we're going to kind of get into later. I think we're going to do another podcast with that, kind of separate from all this. Some old, great tight end legends like Greg Olsen, Jason Witten, hanging up the clock right now, retiring. Dwayne Haskins signed a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, no guaranteed money, so there's something there.
You're going to spend in the strip club anyway.
He probably would have. So hopefully he can kind of turn his career maybe around in Pittsburgh. And then last but not least, before we get into the Dynasty Talk Jibs, Super Bowl predictions. This is obviously Super Bowl weekend here, guys. Chiefs versus Bucks. What's your overall prediction at the end?
31-28 Chiefs. Bet the Tampa Bay money line. I mean, right. Points, not money line. That would obviously be a bad statement on my behalf.
Gotcha. Now, I'm probably going 35-24 Chiefs. That was my one prediction. Pat Mahomes MVP, of course. Hopefully Brady doesn't win. A bold, yeah, very bold. Yes, I think that you saw last time what happened. I mean, it was a shit show and a half. So
I just feel like all the Super Bowls recently have been like 1-score games, 7 to 3 points.
Yeah, you never know. But I'm expecting a big Pat Mahomes day. Really get his MVP Hall of Fame career off to a big bang with 2 back-to-back championships. So we'll see how that works.
Beat the GOAT.
Exactly.
You better.
All right, guys. So we're gonna get into our dynasty question today. Basically, just questions about things involving dynasty. How about it? What do you do? Do this, that. Before we really get into the AFC talk. So, real quick, Jibs, kind of like, what do you do during a dynasty offseason? What should owners of dynasty teams, maybe their first time in an offseason, should probably be looking at doing?
Well, first, look at the waivers. That's first and foremost. See if there's any like guy that's been on there that may have like a new situation coming to him. I missed out on the Gus Edwards. Someone dropped Gus Edwards in one of my leagues, and like he was on there for a good week. And sorry, Coach Gibbs didn't get him. So look at your waivers first. Then like you want to look at your roster. Obviously, like you're not going to know the schedule and all that good things, but like you want to make sure you have decent backups. Maybe have a plan for the draft, what position you're going to take, see if you could offset some of those moves by like replenishing some depth. Like, me, Steve, like last year in our first Dynasty League, I got destroyed by injuries. Like, so I'm kind of like looking for some depth anywhere I can go, but those are some things I could do. And then it's like pay attention to the news. Like you want to know who's a free agent, where you could get some good like value just because like maybe an owner's not like really feeling a certain player, but you just got to look into some situations. We're going to give you a couple people that you probably could buy low later on in this division and going forward in all the divisions. So, like, it's all about your relative feel on the situation, the player, and how much you want to pay to get a player. So, for me, I'm just evaluating my roster, see what I can move. If I can get some guys that I don't need off my roster and try to flip them for maybe a pick or so. But don't get greedy. Don't freaking get all those picks sooner than later, bro. You want to wait to see where the people are going to be established, and then you're going to try to get your fantasy portfolio optimized.
Yeah, and I definitely love those takes there, Jibs. For me, guys, when it comes to the offseason, you really want to evaluate your team. You want to see where your weaknesses are. You really want to say, is my team ready to compete next year? And if it is, find ways to get that ready for the next season here. If it's not, start loading up on those draft picks. Like Jib says, don't load them on too soon because you might not need the top 3 picks. You might need the back half, and that might be where you could get a lot of great value players, like guys like Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins this past season in this draft here. Just kind of wait. And there are 3 big marks you have to really worry about. At least 2 big marks, and that's obviously free agency and the draft. And those 2 are going to be key factors on figuring out what your team is going to look like. Because your team could look good in December and January.
Oh, my God.
By May, that team could look a lot different. You could have 3 less starters than you thought you were going to have this coming season. So look at that. See what your players are going to be pending free agents this year. See if this is the time maybe to sell them. Maybe to buy low on guys. Maybe guys, look and see guys who didn't perform last year. See guys like rookies last year who were really strong, like Quintez Cephas, like who we kind of like but didn't have that opportunity last year. See if you can buy low on some certain guys here. And we're going to talk about, like Jib said, a lot of different guys who you could buy low on this offseason here. So, like I said, keep your eyes out there. Be active. Find trades that you like. Get players off your team you do not want anymore. And that's kind of what you got to do. You just got to keep on moving around. It's the offseason. This is the time of year for your dynasty teams to get back on track. So,
hey, and it may stink, but you could sell. You could still sell it.
You sure can. I've been seeing it all over the place. So it's something you got to get those trades going, guys. So let's start with our first team. And, of course, it's my Miami Dolphins, guys. Miami Dolphins had a great season. Unfortunately, they didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, we lost in Week 17. But the biggest question probably in this entire Dolphins team we're going to talk about today is Tua Tagovailoa, the rookie quarterback with a lot of doubters now. After somewhat of a subpar rookie year compared to guys like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. And Jibs, like, if you have him on your dynasty team right now, how are you feeling about having a guy like Tua right now, who's having a lot of, again, doubts, possible trade with Deshaun Watson right now going on? How are you feeling about having a guy like that?
I don't honestly own Tua, but I think he's a fringe starter for one quarterback dynasty leagues. Obviously, you could utilize him in superflex in 2 quarterback leagues, but I'm just going off the Dolphins kind of feel. Like the Dolphins shown verbal commitment to Tua, but I know he still needs to show me more because in the starts, he he had like you look at the box score, yeah, he did this, he did that, but like if you actually look into the game, like it's very pedestrian. Like, oh, we're gonna run on first, second down, we're gonna throw it on third, and just kind of baby feed him. There's not like really deep shots. He's like really short sticks, kind of intermediate routes, but I want to see him progress more. So like. I'm not feeling very good if he's my first quarterback, or I'm just like kind of banking like that I had Drew Brees and I had Tua right there. That's a kind of bad situation to go into 2021. So even with like the news, the Dolphins want to get Deshaun Watson. So I don't know if Tua's going to be staying with the Dolphins. Or he's going to go to Houston. If he goes to Houston, like I think it's kind of wrapped for him, to be honest. So like I'm praying he stays for the plays for the Dolphins, but like he didn't show like that. He didn't have that bad of a year. Like it's just like I need more. Like you see the Pat Mahomes, you see the Josh Allen, you see Deshaun Watson, you see like Lamar Jackson. Even in his bad year when he couldn't pass, like he still could put up stats. But like I kind of don't feel that with Tua. Like I think he's a fringe. He's like a QB2, but like he's not like a high end QB2. I think he's like around like the 15, 16 kind of ranked quarterback and the average. I'm gonna let you speak to that, Steve. You're a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, no, definitely. And a lot of people want us to trade for Tua, and not Tua, for Watson, and I get it. But and as we would, hope for. I mean, in terms of fantasy, in terms of the NFL, he did enough to make me like, okay, short passes. But then there were times against the Chiefs, against the Cardinals, that he kind of aired it out a little bit. And it's hard to say, like, well, he didn't have good pass catchers, but, you see Ryan Fitzpatrick go in there and do something with nothing. And I don't think you can really compare the two because Ryan Fitzpatrick was more of that type of like kind of I don't care attitude, and he was just such a smart guy. I mean, you saw what he can do at the line of scrimmage, his pre-motion snaps, kind of finding out what the defenders really do, and Tua just isn't there yet, and he needed more time. And I think give him another season, another off season, really to get things going, he could really skyrocket. And what they're doing with the Dolphins is they're bringing a guy like Channing Frye and the quarterback coach, and they bring two coordinators in George Godley and Eric Studfeld that I think those three combined, kind of mixing them over of a college/NFL playbook, I think really can get Tua going. I think he's got a pretty good deep ball for the most part, and he's a very accurate quarterback. He's not like he was an inaccurate quarterback. He just wasn't throwing the ball downfield, and that could be part of the reason why his accuracy was so well. But again, I think he's still a top 12 fantasy player right now. I think he's just a borderline QB1, maybe a high-end QB2 to be more realistic right now. But they get weapons. They bring a big-time free agent like Allen Robinson. They bring in Devontae Smith possibly. They bring in a running back like Naeem and I can't even think of his name right now. Najee Harris, thank you. There are things he can do. And I think if you can buy low on a guy like Tua right now, he could end up surprising you by the season where people get more hyped about him playing in 2021. So that's kind of how I feel about Tua still. I think he's a good buy low guy.
Definitely a good point is accuracy. Like the only thing I want him to do, I need him to risk it for the biscuit. Like you can't be making these like powder puff throws. You need to actually kind of get these tight windows. I know like he doesn't want to throw them, but he has to adjust to it. Like you see Patrick Mahomes, like he'll do a no look and still put it in a tight window too. So Tua has a ceiling, and like he has everything there. The Dolphins needs to put things around him and make it all go together.
Yeah, definitely. And the whole thing with Fitzpatrick being like, well, he just airing the ball out. I mean, if you watch some of the games there, I mean, he just sometimes got lucky, especially against the Raiders. I mean, obviously, Myles Gaskin, like 65-yard run or catch and run. And then you saw, obviously, that crazy catch. Yeah, exactly. So, like, I mean, it's not like he was just airing the ball out consistently. He just took more risks than Tua did. And I think that's what Tua needs to learn and go into next season to be able to, hey, you got to take more risks. You have to rely on your wide receivers to do the work for you and just get the ball in the right area, and they're going to do it. And again, I think that's why he's a good buy low right now. So let's move on here now and go over the running backs. And there's really not much to talk about because there could be a big switch to running backs. But Myles Gaskin's really surprising season from a former 7th rounder. But again, are you comfortable with him, or is it time to just kind of get rid of him if you can? Or
for me, like, I would like to sell him, obviously. You don't know what the situation will bring to. Like you said, he's a 7th round pick. the Dolphins really don't have any commitment to him. Although like Brian Flores pretty much loves the guy. Like he was running before Jordan Howard, Matt Breida, who they signed in the offseason, and he showed very good problems. The guy scored double-digit PPR fantasy points in 9 out of 10 games he started. I know he missed a couple games with injury, but when he was on the field, it was a pretty high carry volume. I would say about like 15 carries a game. He was like the main guy. Like we know he has some receiving prowess. So like there's like stuff to consider like you liking Gaskins, but like I feel like if you're trying to peddle Gaskins to another fantasy manager, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'll give you like a 3rd round pick for him. You're like, bro, like come on, you see this guy's stats, you're not gonna get fair market value from him. That's the only thing I have to say about it. But like if you want to keep him on your bench, maybe as like a situation running back or replacement running back or flex something, like that's perfectly fine. But like if you get like a 2nd round pick for him or a high 2nd round pick for him, I'll like to move him. But like you just never know with situations like this. The NFL is rapidly evolving. Like we saw the Dolphins probably have like 6-7 running backs this year too. So like it's a weird situation, but I want to maximize my value as much as I can for Gaskin.
Yeah, see, Gaskin's definitely a tough one to really trying to get a hold of because, there's a lot of speculation Dolphins could end up, signing somebody. I don't think they do sign somebody. And then there's a lot of speculation that, Najee Harris, like I mentioned, they were on his team during the Senior Bowl. I think they have a really strong connection to want to get a guy like that in here. And if that happens, I think that kind of just destroys Myles Gaskin's value. But if they don't, what happens if they don't? And they think, oh, Myles Gaskin can do this with us. He showed great work last year. I mean, his vision is fantastic. I mean, he lost a lot of goal line opportunities early to Jordan Howard. He had 33% of the red zone opportunities with the running backs. I mean, he had some injury concerns, but honestly, if you can sell him, like Chip said, a 2nd round pick, I think you just sell him off right now. Again, I just don't see him being a lead back going to next year. And again, that's a risk you're having to take because if you don't do it now, I just don't see him having much of I don't see him ever being an RB1. That's the thing. Maybe an RB2, a couple of seasons, but that's only if he's a starter. And I just really don't believe he's a starter. So I think this is the time to get him off your team, like Jibs mentioned here. Get a 2nd round pick for him, rebuild, find a new running back, maybe going into year 2, whatever it may be. So I'm kind of off the gas and train myself.
RB2 in like real life.
Exactly. So let's over to the wide receivers now, real quick here. What do you do with the Dolphins wide receivers? And there's really only 2 guys I'm going to mention here, and it's Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. Like, what do you do with them, Jibs, right now in terms of they're on your dynasty team? What do you do with these guys?
For me, like, they're going to be a hold. Like, the time to sell Parker was last year in his phenomenal 2019 campaign. And Parker did have some flashes in 2020, but his production varied with the starting quarterback situation. When Tua started, like obviously there was subpar production, but then when Fitzy came in the game, oh my God, Devontae Parker like the 2nd coming of freaking Randy Moss, and we've seen it. Like then next week Tua started and like it'll be Moss production. So like I had to hold him to see like if that rapport would build up. Obviously, I kind of believe the Dolphins were going to go forward with Tua, so like I want to see how that builds, but. Preston Williams was also a hot name last offseason too, but like his season got derailed by injury, of course, and then like he was pretty plagued by drops last year too. So I don't know if that's just kind of acclimating to a right-hand, left-hand quarterback kind of situation like that. But like the guy has some promise, Preston Williams, but like the Dolphins also have a trove of draft picks, so they could have a replacement coming to him, and you never know. And they also have other wide receivers that didn't play due to COVID or got hurt early in the season, like Albert Wilson. So there's a lot of moving heads in that quarterback room. I mean, the wide receiver room. And you also can't forget about a guy like Glenn Bowen and Isaiah Ford also, who came out strong at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, for me with the Dolphins wide receivers now, I expect it to be a new wide receiver 1, and if that's Devontae Smith, hopefully, or Lamar Chase, or maybe somebody else. I'm looking to honestly mostly sell these guys off. And as a Dolphins fan, I hate to say it, but I just don't think Devontae Parker really fits what Tua can do and what he's going to do in this offense here. I don't expect him to be a guy who goes and throws the ball for a jump up with Devontae Parker consistently. You didn't see that chemistry really hit last year. Again, he was nagged with injuries and whatnot, but he's already 27 at this point here, and I really don't see him being a wide receiver 1 during his career here. I just don't see it. There's just too many weapons I think they're going to bring in this offseason here that you can kind of sell him off. And I think he's a good piece if you're going to, like, hey, like, you need one piece, like, hey, take Devontae Parker, try to sell it to somebody, like, hey, he's the wide receiver one on the team, blah, blah, blah. And you do it now. I think it's the time to do it, to get him off your team. Preston Williams, you could say the same situation here. Really a guy who I really like, but just hasn't lived up to that kind of standard that we really want from him as an undrafted guy right now. And you take the spark where, he had that really good game against the Cardinals and kind of fell apart, and it just didn't happen. And I think it's the time to just kind of get rid of him as well. Live off that hype that people might like in Preston Williams still, and kind of just say, hey, it's Preston Williams. He's a young guy still. Take him and see what you can get for him. And that's what I would do right now. And just kind of sell him off and get that value. Get second-round picks for a guy like Preston Williams still, if you can. Devontae Parker, you're not going to get a first, but get a second-rounder. Rebuild on that. I just don't see them guys really being a wide receiver one in the near future anytime soon. And let's head over to the tight ends now, and that's like the biggest thing. Obviously, a hometown boy of ours, Mike Gesicki. And Mike Gesicki come off another strong season. Again, that was kind of Ryan Fitzpatrick, a little mixed in there. But him and Tua at points during the second half of the season kind of brought things together. I had 400 yards over the last 9 games of the season, not too bad. But can you believe that Mike Gesicki makes that push into possibly that top 5 tier tight ends? Kind of a push that a guy like T.J. Hawkinson made this year. Jibs, are you there? You're muted if you're muted. There's no timeout now in this because we're live, Jibs. So I'll go first, guys. You get yourself together, Jibs. With me, when it comes to Mike Gesicki, I'm still buying into a guy like Mike Gesicki. He's heading into year 4. He's made some insane catches. I mean, his yards per reception was 13.7, 5th best in the league. His target was 8.7, 7th best in the league. And again, Tua, I think, improves going into next year. And a young quarterback's friend has always been a tight end. He had 6 of his last 7 games. He had 40 yards or more, and a lot of that was with Tua. Some of that obviously was with Fitzpatrick, but he was an elite time kind of game that he has into his ability here. A guy who can kind of just go up and get the ball, kind of a mismatch against the linebackers and safeties. And this is a guy I think you still want to get in your offense here because he's young. I don't count his first year as a real year because it's with Adam Gase, as we all know. But I think he takes another step. The new offensive coordinator was a tight end coach for the Dolphins this past season here. So I'm expecting to kind of use Mike Gesicki to do new things. I mean, if you see him, he's just an athletic build to his guy. I mean, he's fast, and he's 25 years old. I think this is the time he's going into the prime of his career here right now in Miami here. And I expect Mike Gesicki, if you get a guy like Mike Gesicki in your team, you'll be set at tight end for a couple of years, for maybe another 5 or 6 years, because I think he's really going to get into his own this coming season here and really be a weapon for this Dolphins team here moving forward. So love me some Mike Gesicki. Jibs, are you back yet? You're not back yet. You lost your mic there. So we'll take a second. I got to add you back in. Okay, let me see if I can get you back in here real quick, guys. Sorry about that. Let's see. Get you back in here now. We'll see what we can do here, guys. So sorry about the delay here, guys. First time going live and doing this at the same time. Figured to give you guys a more virtual thing a little bit here to kind of get involved here. There's not much left to talk about the Dolphins. Jibs, when you get back in, we'll kind of keep going with the Dolphins here. You're not in. Well, it happens, guys. So we're not going to stop. We're going to keep moving here. When we get Jibs back in, we'll kind of rewind a little bit here and go through that. And let's see what Jibs is saying here. He's backstage. He says, I need to add him. So let me see here if I can add him in real quick. I don't know what you're saying, Jibs. You tell me to add you in. I am adding you. Oh, sorry about that.
I'm in the show again. Thank you.
There we go.
So well, Mike Gesicki, man, he could push in the next year top 5 tight ends. He finished tight end 6 in standard. He finished tight end 7 in PPR. And you want to think about it at the end of the day, the Dolphins utilized multiple tight ends last year. They had Mike Gesicki, he had finished with 5 touchdowns this year. And if they had that offense consolidated, to be honest with you, he could have had a superb season. Adam Shaheen had a few touchdowns. And even Dermot Smythe had. So, like, Mike Gesicki had 5, Adam Shaheen had 3, Dermot Smythe had 2 touchdowns. Mike Gesicki could have been a 10-touchdown tight end. That would have pushed him easily in the top 4 at least. So, you just got to believe in him. And when they showed Mike Gesicki and gave him opportunity in certain games, he exploded. Like, I'll say week 16 and 14 against Kansas City and the Cincinnati Bengals, I believe. The guy had multiple touchdowns in one game. He had a touchdown in another one, but he could produce elite numbers. This is all what the Dolphins want to do. And maybe it's easier for Tua to throw to the tight end. I don't know, but they need to get him on the field a lot often. And I know, like, his end of the campaign got derailed by injuries, but the guy is a promising figure. We were all on him last season. It didn't really it kind of came true. He finished tight end 6, 6-7. So, like, we're on him, but he just needs to be more consistent week by week.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing about him being a little bit more consistent as a player. I mean, there's just too many times when he's got like 5 or 6 fantasy points. And again, most tight ends, that's not bad. But if you really want him to jump into that next tier, I think he just needs to kind of maybe see more touchdowns, maybe get to a double-digit type of touchdown kind of season to him. But Mike Gesicki has the sky's the limit. So let me keep moving, guys, because we're not doing great on time. So let's over to the who's going to be the next team here? The Buffalo Bills, actually, not the New York Jets. Buffalo Bills here. So, Jibs, you have a guy like Josh Allen here now, and can you make an argument that he could be the number 1 dynasty quarterback? I know that Mahomes is there, and can you make it?
Yeah, you can make an argument the way that he progressed as a passer this year, and he obviously provides a great rushing floor with his mobility. But since his dynasty, I'm obviously going Mahomes. But don't get me wrong, his numbers last year were like a fusion of both Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. So, like, move over Dak, move over Watson, move over Lamar. Allen's number 2 now, and like just that. The touchdowns that he like kind of had this year, like I expected maybe to go down a bit, but like I think he's a real deal, and like this man can rush for 60 yards, get a touchdown every now and then in the red zone, so that makes an elite quarterback option in fantasy and in dynasty. And he's still young; he's 24 years old, and hey, man, looks like the Jets missed out, and a couple other teams missed out last year. I mean, and the Cardinals missed out in that draft.
17 draft? 18 draft? 18 draft, yes.
18.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously Pat Mahomes number 1. I mean, I had to put that in there as a comical joke. I mean, but he's honestly, I think he's my number 3 quarterback right now. I mean, I was not a big fan of him really. I just didn't think he could actually get to that point to be a fantasy quarterback. But not a fantasy quarterback. He absolutely was good, but to be an actual NFL quarterback, but. I mean, he scored over 400 fantasy points this coming season here, and obviously a guy like Stephon Diggs made a huge difference in his game here. I mean, he's top 5 in passing yards, top 5 in attempts. He's top 5 in rushing, top 5 in touchdowns overall. I mean, again, he's still on that slight accuracy issue though, but he's made up for it. He made up a big time for it, and the power star of Stephon Diggs turned him into a guy who can throw the ball downfield with accuracy. He just made such an improvement in his game here. I think he's a must-own quarterback. I wouldn't trade him. I think there's a lot more with this Bills offense here that can go into next season. Granted, they get a run game going and use that play action to do things with the ball. I think Josh Allen has another level that I think you want to hold on to a guy like this in your dynasty leagues right now while moving forward, because he's going to be a guy for the next at least 10 years to be a dominant force in this league here, because it's not just his running game anymore. It's also his passing you have to worry about. So Josh Allen's a fantastic quarterback moving forward. And now going to the running backs now, Jibs. The running back game was really just a huge disappointment this coming season here. I mean, Devin Singletary, a guy who I was in love with, died. Nothing really spectacular. Zach Moss, who a lot of people in the industry loved, injured, just never really got to that next level at times. Some spark there, but nothing great. What do you make of these running backs? If you had them on your team right now, do you feel great owning them?
No, not at all. Although I would prefer Zach Moss over Devin Singletary, but like you said before, the Bills weren't committed to the run in quite a few games this last year. And on top of that, like at the end of the day, like with that 50-50 timeshare between Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, you don't know who's gonna have like the better game. Like the only reason why I prefer Zach Moss is obviously that red zone, the touches, the value you can get from him scoring a touchdown rather than Devin Singletary just grinding like meaningless yards. But then you also got to think on top of that, like you have to add Josh Allen to the mix. Anytime you could just go out there, do like a nice little 7-yard scamper, get a touchdown, and then guess what? You're out of points, and then you're stuck with like a 8-point line, which is ridiculous on an offense that great. So like I'm not too high on these Bills running backs. I hope like one of them could kind of just emerge. Hopefully Zach Moss, but it ain't for me, dog.
Yeah, no. Like I said, I took a lot of Devin Singletary shares mid-season and got rid of them, thankfully. But again, honestly, I don't like these guys separate. I mean, I don't like them separate, but together they just don't add up to a good fantasy time. And there's rumors out there they're going to add more of an elite back to kind of go with this offense here. So that kind of gives me some kind of nerve-wracking when it comes to these two players here. But I mean, yeah, Singletary, he really didn't do that great. I mean, even when he had a chance to be the starter by himself there, I mean, just wasn't that good. I mean, just didn't play that well. Very mediocre opportunity, even lost time to TJ Yeldon at times. And when it comes to Zach Moss, I mean, with him, it's just like, can he stay healthy? That was a big issue with him coming out of the NFL draft was his health concerns. He had injuries in college, and then he brought them to the NFL here now. The only thing I can think of is that, again, I think they really liked Zach Moss to get him going. I mean, he had, 3 straight games at the end of the year with 10-plus carries. He had a top 6 in juke rates. But if you're going to own one of these two guys, I think it's Zach Moss still because he's only going into year 2. There's an opportunity for him to kind of grow in this offense here. He's kind of that guy who can probably handle the bigger workload, minus the injuries. But Singletary, I think at this point, I think he's just kind of a scat back, kind of a guy who kind of just be used in offense in certain situations, while Zach Moss, I think, can handle the workload. But both these guys, I'm just not getting happy with on my team here, and I'm kind of really trying to get them off my team at this point because I just can't trust them in fantasy together when they're both on the field. So, all right, let's head over to the next here now, the wide receivers. And again, Stephon Diggs, fantastic season, and obviously had a great year, but can you trust it?
Without a doubt, the force is strong in that one. His lowest output last year was 10.9 points in PPR. That's stupid. And then, 10.8. And then the second one was 10.9. So everything above that is gold for me. Start him up.
Yeah, no, if you guys had any doubt with Stephon Diggs, I just thought I'd throw that out there. I mean, man had double-digit fantasy points in 14 to 16 games. It clearly that when he became the actual star of a team, it's his team now. He's 27 years old. I think he's still prime for another 3 or 4 seasons in this league with a guy like Josh Allen. Again, he's more of a wide receiver too, though, in half-point PPR leagues. So if you play half-point, I think that you have to take that in kind of somewhat of a consideration. I don't know if he's a true wide receiver one, like a top 5 guy, even though you think he finished there in top 5. But if you look at his game-by-game basis, he played more of as a wide receiver too. So just to keep that in your minds there. But overall, I think he's a wide receiver 1 in your fantasy teams. He's a guy you want to own, high target share. I think he's going to continue to have that. Hopefully the touchdowns can kind of go up a little bit. They won't that great, but can kind of improve from that. But young quarterback with a cannon, prime wide receiver age, wide receiver 1 weapon. I got to love the guy. And what do you do with guys like John Brown and Cole Beasley? Both at some points had great years. Last 2 years here. Are they sell candidates? What are you doing with these guys?
Obviously, they're add-on packages. Add-on packages if you're just trying to sell and try to get a good deal. But I think they're actually good both buy low candidates for like a owner who's trying to get like a nice wide receiver 3 to fortify their position. So like I'm not opposed to buying them this offseason. Like I know John Brown was kind of injury riddled last year, but Cole Beasley, he had a phenomenal year for a guy who's pretty much been written off. Like we know he played for the Cowboys for so long, and he was just basically that guy who got like those hard like slants and stuff and got hurt. But Jesus Christ, man, this man pretty much was like the most I wouldn't say the most consistent player, but he was a very consistent fantasy wide receiver last year. And like I think there'll be fantastic wide receiver threes for your roster.
Yeah, for me, I think they're good sell candidates personally. They're over the age of 30 at this point. I would honestly try to get second and third round picks for both these guys at this point because they're coming to the close to the end of their contracts. I don't expect them to be there for the final year of their contracts. Maybe Cole Beasley more than John Brown. But again, Cole Beasley, I think you could get maybe a late second for. Back-to-back, really good seasons here. I think he had 100 targets back-to-back seasons now. He's 31 though. And I think at some point his contract can be kind of given up and taken, not them getting a hit. But his catch rate was fantastic, 67%. You kind of use that to try to get yourself a late second rounder from somebody who's looking to compete again next year. I'm definitely trying to do that.
All the injuries too.
Exactly. I think he didn't have like a torn torn something in his leg or something, didn't he? Torn ACL or something while he was playing.
I don't know the exact injury, but like he battled through that and like
he did something like that. It was a little weird. And again, John Brown, I think he's just he has injury concerns. So sell him off to a third if you can right now. I think that's the best option. And finally, a guy like Gabriel Davis, rookie last year, who I'm super high on. I think I actually have a signed jersey that I might actually auction off at some point. Can he take the step in year 2? Do you expect him to take a step in year 2?
I don't see why not. Like the Buffalo offense is how it kind of integrated last year. It's just very passing oriented. So like we've seen him make pretty good splash plays on like a 2 to 3 target game and score a touchdown. And if they could get him utilized more, like we just mentioned, like Cole Beasley, like he fought through injuries last year, but Father Time's undefeated. John Brown's been down through like constant injuries the last 2 years. So there's gonna be opportunity for him to get on the field and make good plays. And I liked what I saw out of him. I'm very like sad that I couldn't like scoop him up in fantasy. Thank you, Steve. But it is what it is, and I think he'll be a fantastic player. He has speed. He has good catch radius, and like he's playing with Josh Allen. So like I know, like just think about it like as the Kansas City. Like I was touting McCole Hardman last year. This could be this year's McCole Hardman for the Bills. Gabriel Davis.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Gabriel Davis. I've been buying him every which way possible in Dynasty right now. He's 22 years old. He had 600 yards and 7 touchdowns as a rookie. Wide receiver 38 over his final 8 games. He's 6'2", 216. A perfect, downfield wide receiver to kind of match up with Stephon Diggs. And I think he can have a breakout year 2. It will depend if John Brown's there. That might lower it a little bit. But this is a guy who I really want to buy now for if his 2021 season or even going into 2022 season. I think he's going to have another great year in 2021. Will make him a real candidate to be a breakout player in 2022. So get him now if you can, because I think he has the skill sets to really just take that next step. And again, you have a young quarterback like Josh Allen throwing the ball. You got a premier wide receiver to the other side of the field of him. Gabriel Davis is a guy you want to get on your fantasy team right now if you can, because he's fantastic. His target separation was a 2.7, 7th best in the league. Fantastic fit for this offense here. I'm definitely trying to buy a guy like that right now if I can. And the last but not least, a guy like Dawson Knox going to year 3 now. Kind of came on at the end of the season there. But can you expect someone of a year 3 breakout for a guy like Dawson Knox?
It's hit or miss for me. It just doesn't seem like the Bills utilize their tight ends like correctly. And sure, like Dawson Knox, he had 3 touchdowns last year, and every other Bills tight end had 3 touchdowns too. But you will figure, like, as he progresses in his young NFL career, that he'll have more chances to be a prominent role in the offense. So, like, guys like Lee Smith and Tyler Kroft, hopefully they get them out of there, like, kind of relegate the role down a tad, and Dawson Knox kind of elevate, because, like, he's a good tight end. Like, you see he gets good usage in the red zone, and he has a decent, like, catching up probability too. So like I like Dawson Knox, but like I just kind of I'm not like too high on the Bills in their tight end situation unless they get that corrected. Too many heads for me.
Got someone that told me to take my Christmas tree down. Our boy Devin told us to take my Christmas.
Get him, Devin. Take that Christmas tree down.
Hey man, Christmas all year round in
February.
the Palo household here. So, all right, yeah. So with Dawson Knox, honestly, I love his talent. I think I had him as a pretty much of a somewhat of a sleeper in 2020, and I think you kind of saw at the end of the season with me. I mean, he was tight end 15 down the stretch of the season here. He's really good separation with his target share. I think he can be a guy who takes that next step in year 3. Again, especially depends if guys like Cole Beasley and maybe John Brown are gone. The lack of targets, but could be something of a big concern for him. But if those guys are gone, he could see an uptake. I like him as a buy low candidate right now. Again, we like Josh Allen. Let's keep the players around Josh Allen going. I think if people just really aren't really big on him, and I think if you can buy low on him, I like him as a tight end going into next year. So. All right, let's move on to the next team. Who we going to next year? Who's going to be showing up? Oh, let me get rid of that comment, though.
Ash Jets.
That's right. The New York Jets are on the board here now, guys. And quickly, Jibs, what do you do with Sam Darnold right now?
Oh, nothing really. Maybe you could squeeze him in a deal in the 2 QB Superflex league, but his fantasy value was like getting a new car and getting into an accident before you get home. He's shown flashes in the final stretches the last 2 years, but good grief, he's bench fodder now, in my opinion.
So you're selling him. You're not trying to buy a guy like Sam Darnold right now. Is what you're telling me?
What? I'll buy him from waivers.
I mean, former first rounder. He's missed a lot of games through injury. They Adam Gase offense. He's only 24 though, and new coaching staff in New York.
I died on the Sam Darnold train the last 3 years. I'm off it.
All right. I'm still trying to buy him, honestly. If I can buy low on him and get a second for him or trade him for a second, I'm still about it because he's young. And again, it's a risk because if the Jets do take a quarterback at 2, that's going to be a big issue. But, I feel like a lot of things I'm hearing is about like keeping Sam Darnold, getting him protection, getting him another target in the wide receiver core, getting a guy like Allen Robinson. For me, I'm still trying to buy low on him if I can. I mean, he had terrible numbers last year, but
buy low the third, Steve.
I just obviously don't think I'm going to get a buy low for him, but I'm still trying to buy a guy like Sam Darnold. I'd still want him on my fantasy team, but I think he just has something still to prove. And if he makes a starting job this year, I think he has a better season. So I like him.
How about this? I have him on our initial Dynasty team. I'll sell him to you. Give me a 4th rounder.
Which league? Which league is this?
The Jersey one.
Oh, well, I don't want him on the Jersey long. I have 3 great quarterbacks. Well, okay, in a single quarterback league, but clearly you don't want a guy like Sam Darnold because he's not big. But in a Superflex league, I'm buying him every which way if I can. Any Superflex leagues I'm in, I'm down to give him up a second for him because I think he's still valuable enough to do something well. I wouldn't give him first, but a second rounder, I'd definitely be okay with it. So
we got a hot take stamp of approval right there. Boom.
You're the one with the hot takes. I just say things. So let's keep moving here. Any of the Jets running backs right now worth having on your fantasy teams? A guy like Michael P. Ryan, Ty Johnson, Frank Gore.
They're worth holding, but like they obviously need to upgrade that offensive line. I know. What was their offensive line they drafted?
God, that's a great question. Yeah, Beckham. Yeah. Beckham.
Yeah, so they drafted Beckham, but they still need way more help on there. They tried to fortify it last year through free agency, but just with COVID and everything that happened in this NFL campaign, it kind of didn't really gel right initially. But even with that, there's still a lot of unknown to me with a new head coach coming in, but it doesn't hurt to speculate. Obviously, it's Dynasty. You're not going to have like top-tier studs on the waiver wire or like that. So if I had P. Ryan, I would hold them. And it doesn't like really hurt to look at Ty Johnson if he wasn't a late waiver ad during last year's season. And then if you're really desperate, hey, go look at Josh Adams. He's probably still on waivers too. So he's been slightly productive for the places he's been. I know like he was on the Eagles and like he had a couple good flashes. He had a good flash last game last year with the Jets. So stuff you can think about it, but I think they'll probably try to even draft one. You never know.
Yeah, no. Like I said, for me, when it comes to Jets running backs, anyone who's there at this point, if they're holds, if anything, to see if maybe they don't draft somebody and then one of those guys becomes the starters. We could find out very early in March that they're no longer worth having on your fantasy team almost.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, either sells or they're holds right now, and I'm not trying to buy into the Jets running back core right now. Michael Piron, who I was, again, a big fan of going into this draft here, I just don't know if he's going to see the workload. I don't know if, because it's a new regime, that he's going to have a chance to really have that starting job, and that's the thing that scares me. But either they're holds if they're on your team already, if you can sell them for someone worthy of what you're trying to get on your team, then yeah, do it. But besides that, I mean, these guys just weren't that great. Ty Johnson had flashes obviously last year that obviously we like, but you got him as a free agent. I mean, that's really all they are. I mean, that's really all it is. I mean, Michael Pirine is a guy who I love. I mean, great vision, guy who can kind of beat defenders with his speed, ability to catch the ball. But again, you didn't see enough of that last year with injuries and COVID.
And Adam Gase.
And Adam Gase, yes, and we don't know what the team's going to do. They have one of the most budgeted free agent spending this year to work with, so they might be in the market for a running back. So not going to worry about that.
Be in the strip club with the salary dollars.
Exactly. All right, so let's get over the wide receivers now here, and basically, can you rely on any of these wide receivers? Like, do you still want a guy like Jamison Crowder? Or, do you want to buy in a guy like Denzel Mims? What do you think, Jibs?
Well, the way you phrase your questions, I don't think they'll be consistent because it hinges on Sam Darnold being an efficient quarterback and taking a step forward. But for Crowder's circumstances, I actually think he's consistent by the definition. Like, in a way, when you look at his weekly game log, he has 3 good games, 3 bad games in a row, then he has 3 good games, and then he sprinkles in some dirt and some rubbish in there. But with Crowder, like, it's just so hard trying to predict when he's going to do good or not. In PPR, he's pretty much at standpoint at 10, 11 points. It's like sometimes he gets you 20, sometimes he gets you 6. It is what it is with that. And with the rest of the herd, like, I can't like count on them being consistent. Like, I know Denzel Mims, they put some decent like draft capital in him, and I think they'll definitely utilize him more and more. But I can't call him consistent. I will try to buy low on a guy like Mims due to like that kind of poor season that he had with injuries in the beginning of the year. But he shows some promise. It all feels how you feel about the Jets, though, and a lot of fantasy managers don't feel good about the Jets.
It's a great take there, Jibs. Wasn't here for it, but I'm sure it was a fantastic take, man.
It was trash.
All right, well, for me, guys, Jamison Crowder, he's a sell for me. Big sell right now. Adam Gase is gone. Offense is going to change completely. I'm selling him if I can. I don't know if you're going to get much for him, but like a second-round pick for Jamison Crowder right now, maybe 2 seconds. I'm okay about getting rid of Jamison Crowder. Just that the offense ran before and through the slot. I just don't expect it to do it this time. I'm going to throw the ball downfield a little bit more. You saw what this Jets offense lacked in those downfield throws. That's something that I think this new offense is going to buy into with Mike LaFleur. He's a sell for me. Denzel Mims, I still want to buy him if you can. He had pretty much an unknown rookie year. He's a young, talented wide receiver that I'd still want to get into. Again, that could really change the one free agency. It's kind of what we talk about, like free agency could be a big key factor. Because you bring a guy like Allen Robinson in, it could change a whole bunch of things in this offense here. Could make things a little bit better. You bring a guy like
strong connections to Allen Robinson and Jets.
It just is a lot of rumors. I hear a lot of rumors. They have the money. That's all. A lot of rumors.
They have the money. Got the bag.
They have the money. Allen Robinson. The rumors are there. So, but a guy like Denzel Mims, still trying to buy low on him. Really tremendously talented wide receiver. So.
What about Juju? Played with
if Juju was there, I would kill Jamison Crowder if Juju went there. That's for sure. So I would kill Jamison Crowder. So let's quickly go over Chris Herndon. Any possibility with Chris Herndon? Mike LaFleur was the offensive coordinator for the 49ers with George Kittle. Possibility getting him.
Back that up. So Chris Herndon, I hope he does reappear. To be honest, like I was high on him last year, and with Adam Gase and that whole campaign, it was just so worse. But last year, he ended the year pretty well. He had 97 yards, 2 touchdowns, and like it ain't much, but like basically at 97 yards is 33% of his total yards last year. And I could just pray, like, and I'm praying, like, honestly, God, praying that Coach Salo will utilize him more. And like you said, he brought the offensive coordinator from San Francisco. And I know he's not an offensive coordinator, but like he was the D coordinator for San Francisco. And he had to deal with George Kittle in practice, know what's a good route for him, what's a bad route for him, how to defend him and whatnot. So I think he understands how to utilize a tight end, even though he's a defensive coordinator. So I'm just hoping Saleh brings some of that San Francisco flavor to New Jersey, and it could kind of help the Jets progress more and actually be a capable franchise that wins more than 6 games in 2 years.
Definitely. Yeah, I honestly kind of don't mind spending a 4th rounder and trying to get a guy like Chris Herndon. I think he was a tremendous athlete. Finished tight end 6 the final 3 weeks of the season. And with this new offense here, they could switch things up. They could really get the tight ends involved. Adam Gase's offense really never did get the tight ends involved. I mean, the kid's got speed. He's got a great route running ability. If you could buy low on a 4th rounder to get a guy like Chris Herndon and see maybe they can turn things around with him. 25 years old, has another year on this team at least. I like him. I really want to. If you can get him for cheap for nothing, basically, I wouldn't mind having him. See what happens because if anything, he can only get his usage go higher. I mean, unless he loses his job and just gets cut, I think he could end up having a better season.
Griffin?
Ryan Griffin, yeah, okay. Ryan Griffin, guys, come on, that's not happening in this offense here. So I like it. So. And let's finally, last but not least, the bad guys in the New England Patriots.
Easiest thing ever. This is
easiest thing ever. There's not much to talk about. So the quarterback situation's a mess. Do you want to get a guy like Jarrett Stidham right now on your team?
Bruh. That's my answer. I don't want nothing to do with this team. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, I mean, yeah, if you want to get him for a late round pick, I guess. I mean, but we don't know who's going to be the quarterback. Cam could be back. Cam could not be back. Jim, what do you do with Cam right now if you have him as a free agent? Do you try to sell him for anything, or I don't think you can sell him?
I'll sell him for anything I can right now. I'll probably put the price high, send an offer, and then let the manager be like, nah, I think he's worth that. Okay, sure, bet. Take him.
So would you give up? Would you give up? Like, would you take a 3rd rounder for Cam Newton in the Superflex League? Based off him possibly not having a job next year.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Was he really that great last year? Minus the touchdowns? No.
No, he wasn't. Like, I'll take it actually because like Superflex League, yeah, like obviously you don't want to sell a quarterback less than like 2nd round pick, even with like bad situations, but. You don't know, and I don't expect Cam Newton to be back in New England at all. Like they see Tom Brady out there going to the Super Bowl, and Belichick's sitting there like, oh, I'm 7-9 with no passing yards. That's not the Patriots. That's the Patriots I grew up with, and they need to get his ass out of town real quick and put Cam Newton on that QB carousel that everyone else is on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Honestly, I'd be okay with a 3rd rounder getting a 3rd rounder for Cam in a Superflex League because I just don't see him seeing a starting job again. No offense, I mean he's just that at this point, you saw his passing last year. I mean he didn't have the greatest weapons, but still, I mean he did nothing with something. I mean it just doesn't bode well. Luckily he got touchdowns each and every single week, and that's kind of what you see with a guy like Cam Newton. I mean I'm just trying to get rid of him at this point because I don't want anything to do with him because I just think he's kind of done at this point. I just don't see him being a really great passer the rest of his career here. And a quarterback at this point, I just don't see him having a starting job. I just wouldn't want him as a starter right now. I just don't see it. Yeah, 8 passing touchdowns. That is literally terrible. Terrible.
12 rushing touchdowns, but hey, you can't make that up every year, though.
Yeah, you're not going to get 12 rushing touchdowns from every single season. So Cam Newton, yeah, get rid of him on the low, unfortunately, if you have to. I don't think anyone's going to buy him for a 2nd or 1st rounder at this point. And I don't think you're going to get another fantastic season from a guy like Cam Newton this year. So I'm okay getting rid of him. Jarrett Stidham, like I said, if you want to buy low on him, see if maybe he's the starter next year. I mean, but he didn't really perform well when he got this chance to be in the games late. So, I mean, it's going to be probably a new quarterback in New England. So let's stick with the running backs here, head over to them. Damian Harris and Sony Michel, what are their present values right now? Like, where are you valuing them as dynasty players?
Ooh, I like Harris more than I like Michel, so I'll probably say 2nd and 3rd round, respectively.
So you would take a 3rd for both of them?
I'll pay a 2nd for Harris, probably mid to late, and I'll pay like an early 3rd to mid for Michel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat with you. I wouldn't mind. I probably would maybe not want to buy Sony for a third. I'd probably just be like, okay, I'm cool not having Sony Michelle on my
Oh,
team.
I don't want him either.
Yeah, yeah. But you're giving me the value. I get it. I get it too. And that's kind of why I value him as a late third, probably, because I just don't see the value getting any higher. So, I think this is going to be a Damian Harris show next year. I think he'll get the starting job next year. He just came in with great power. I mean, the fact that it's also minimum work on the passing game, I think could turn around. I think James White is gone. We'll talk about him in a second. But I mean, he was a RB3 from weeks 4 to 14, had about 100-yard games. I mean, if Cam Newton wasn't the quarterback, I think Damien Harris or Sony Michel would at least run those touchdowns in. I think Sony at this point, he just too many injuries in his career right now. If the best thing to do is get rid of him and just kind of eat your loss as a guy you probably took as a first rounder in rookie drafts. Harris, I'd still buy until he's 24 years old. He got injured. I think he might have been COVID. I don't remember correctly, but I think he can still put up a couple of years of solid RB2 numbers if he gets a chance to be the backfield guy here. And especially if James White is gone, I think he could be somewhat of a value in terms of dynasty right now moving forward. So, all right. And James White. James White is a free agent this year, Jibs. He's 29 years old. But what do you do with him?
I don't know. Like, you could probably just boast him up to your your opposing fantasy managers in your league. Say hey man, he's a free agent. He's gonna go to a good team. As soon as you get the first report or news report saying he might sign for the Chiefs, or he might sign for some good offensive team. You gotta push on that button now. Send every offer you can because you want to get this guy off your team. We're always accustomed to the James White with Tom Brady, James White on the old Patriots of the past, and that's not there anymore. We don't know who the quarterback is. He had his worst fantasy finish since his rookie year. I mean, since his second year, rookie year, he was kind of limited, but it just wasn't there for him. Cam Newton's not going to throw the ball as efficiently as Tom Brady, or he's not going to just throw the ball, period. So, I need James White to be in a good situation. I know his value will vary, but you got to wait on it, sell him if you can, or you could wait and see where he lands and probably sell him for more if one opposing fantasy manager has a higher feeling on him.
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, I think he's a risky buy low candidate, a third rounder. It sounds crazy to want to buy a guy James White, but if he ends up in a situation where he could be a passing volume, aka me be in Tampa, that'd be interesting. But yeah, I mean, he had his worst career. It's coming to his season since it's Jib said, his rookie year. I don't expect him to be back. Honestly, I just don't see why would bring a 29-year-old running back when they have young wide running backs to kind of mix in there. I don't know why he would even want to go back there at this point. He just wasn't really used to that extent. He had a great little run, but I think he's kind of fall off. He might not even have a job in going into next season. So, yeah, I mean, unless you buy low on a risk that he gets with a job where he finds something good, but if not, he might end up not doing anything. So, kind of what it is with him. But, I really don't want James White. But again, if you want to take that risk and buy low on him, I'm kind of on the same boat with you guys. So. All right, go over the wide receivers real quick. Is there anyone a bargain? Do you want to buy low on N'Keal Harry? Oh my God,
Yeah.
N'Keal Harry, Julian Edelman, maybe Demarius Bright. Do you want to buy low on those guys?
Oh no, I don't want nothing to do with Bird. Well, there's something to say with Bird. I don't want nothing to do with Edelman. He's an ancient fossil. Harry, you can make a case for it just because Bill Belichick and the way he drafts. He knows talent. He knows how to scout players. So we drafted N'Keal Harry with the 27th pick in the draft. There has to be something with him. I know it was a misfortunate situation last year with Cam Newton. So and maybe they get a better quarterback and he's good. Who knows? Hey, that's why you play fantasy. You're a risk taker. But I want to highlight Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is a great candidate you want to buy low in PPR leagues. This man, he put up numbers. You want to talk about Demir Bird? He had 2, 3, 4 targets a game. Maybe he had 2 splash games or whatever. But freaking Jacoby Myers, they might want to try him out for a quarterback position if Cam Newton doesn't come back. To be honest with you, he was throwing dimes, a couple games last year, and he posted pretty good numbers in a very like relative passing offense, which I really like. Steve, I know you probably have some good stats on Jacoby Myers, so you could go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he was wide receiver 24 from week 7 on. He threw 2 touchdown passes. He actually didn't catch a touchdown this coming season here, but he was very consistent, seeing 6 or 7 targets a game. I mean, there was one game I think he was the only targeted wide receiver. I think he's still a good guy that I would buy into. He's only he's only 24. He's got another year with this team. He could be a starter going to next season, lined up next to Julian Edelman. Nikhil Harry, definitely don't want any part of it. I think at this point he's just kind of a bust, unfortunately. Demaris Bray, I think he's 28, and he's a free agent, so I don't expect him to probably really re-sign with this team, and that's the only thing I expect him to do if he does anything. But the only guy I really would want is Jacoby Myers still. And again, at that point, I'm not even like 100% like I want to have Jacoby Myers on my team. I'm like 65% like, yeah, I'll take Jacoby Myers. Like, yeah, sure, I'll spend a second or third rounder to get him right now. Maybe
speculative third round sin. Like, you want him or not? Like,
yeah, but I'm not like saying go get him. But if you want to get him for cheap and see maybe if he can kind of mold with a new quarterback, I'm all about it. But for the most part, this offense, I really don't want to do anything a part of, to be honest, because it just doesn't bode well. I don't know who the quarterback is. I don't know what they're going to be doing here. I just don't like it. So I'm not really a big fan of the Patriots offense right now. So
me neither. The only point I want to make about Nikhil Harry was just like when we drafted him in like fantasy rookie, dynasty rookie drafts, he was a first round pick, and like he's not going for a first round pick anymore. So I think that's something to be had there, even with a poor situation.
Exactly. Completely agree with you, Jibs. And then lastly, real quick, guys, any faith in those rookie tight ends, Devin Anasi or Dalton? Dalton Keene? That's his name.
Negative.
Do you want to just have them on your team? I think they're probably free agents, honestly. They might be people just to pick up and see if maybe they get more involved.
Key to peace, bro.
Yeah, I mean, Devin Ayasi is definitely a guy that they'll want to have because he's a very versatile tight end. But I don't know what this offense is going to take next year. But these guys are something that if you just want to pick them off of free agents and hold on to them, if you're low on tight end, I'm pretty cool about it. But you really don't want this Patriots offense right now, guys. It's just in terms of dynasty, these just don't really bode well for their dynasty values. Anyone on this team, it's like I'm okay not having any Patriots right now. So. All right, so we're over the mark. I think, Jibs, you were right when I said, we'll be under an hour, but we're probably over about an hour.
15 I had, so
actually, it's about 107, I think it's going to be. But, yeah, I think it's going to wrap things up, guys. Thank you all for tuning in at certain points of the show. Obviously, if you don't want to listen live, I get it. That's why we have the recording. We're going to record and have it posted tomorrow morning for you. So we thank you guys for listening so much. As always, please go check out our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com down below if you're listening live. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Coaches Fantasy. We have our Instagram at The Fantasy Coaches. We actually have TikTok we're coming up with now. I think it's Fantasy Coaches too, something like that. That might be more of an in-season thing. I got to learn how to do that. I'm old, I guess.
I'll figure it out for you, brother.
Yeah, you can follow me, though, at Coach Stephen P.
You can follow me at Hot Take Honcho, brother.
Hot take honcho, brother. And we'll be back live next week to do another AFC West with John B. So look forward to that. And thank you guys for listening. Take care and have a good one.
Bye.